Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Aiken. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning, and I'm so glad that you've joined us this morning because we have a lot to cover, a lot of breaking news from yesterday. We're going to talk a little bit more about Lindsey Graham. I've got a couple updates here about the Democrat Party, kind of what they're dealing with as we near the midterms. Some major New York State updates as well. We'll start on the local front. It was announced yesterday that Chemung County Executive Chris Moss is going to continue on to the general election. We know that he is on the conservative line. He lost the Republican primary just a few weeks ago, about a month ago now. Saying in his announcement, after carefully considering the path forward, I've decided to continue my campaign for county executive. Leadership requires making difficult decisions, putting facts ahead of politics, and remaining focused on what is best for the people we serve. I'm proud of the progress Chemung County has made, and I believe there is more work to be done. Under Moss's leadership, and this is continuing with his statement, under Moss's leadership, Chemung County has reduced property taxes, secured millions in grant funding, improved its financial position, and invested in public safety and infrastructure. He has also advanced term limits for county elected officials to promote accountable government. So your thoughts on that, we'll make that announcement later on as well. There was speculation right after the primary. He had said in his, I guess you could say concession statement, if you will, that he was going to look for a path forward. And Chris Moss, Executive Moss, has decided to continue on with the race. That means in November, you'll have Mark Margeson on the Republican line, and you will have Chris Moss on the conservative line. Okay. Yesterday, a bipartisan push to make daylight saving time permanent is now headed for a chamber-wide vote after clearing a key House hurdle. This coming from Fox News. The House Rules Committee teed up a floor vote on the Sunshine Protection Act, which would allow states to enact daylight saving time year-round with an option to opt out. The committee approved the rule in a 6-4 vote. Man, that'll get complicated if you have states. And I could see, just out of spite for their dislike of Trump, I could see us in New York opting out, couldn't you? The measure has the support of many coastal lawmakers, and President Trump, who has repeatedly urged Congress to make daylight savings time permanent and end the twice-a-year ritual of changing clocks, a practice currently observed by every state except Hawaii and most of Arizona. Proponents argue that resetting clocks has negative health impacts, while permanent daylight saving time would boost outdoor recreation, tourism, and economic activity, among other benefits. Most Americans already set their clocks forward 1 hour each spring to preserve more evening daylight before falling 1 hour back in November. Chairman Brett Guthrie, Republican from Kentucky, said Americans are overwhelmingly supportive of the policy and want to end the practice of springing forward and falling back. Locking the clock all year long would have positive impacts on sleep schedules, energy conservation, motor vehicle safety, and our economy. In practice, the change would mean more time for people to exercise outside, visit family, and attend concerts and sporting events, attract customers to their retail business, and more. Representative Vern Buchanan, a Republican from Florida, said Floridians and Americans across the country are tired of the biannual time change, and the evidence is clear that permanent daylight savings time can improve public health, reduce traffic accidents, lower crime, and encourage more outdoor activity. Ending the clock change is a common-sense reform that will improve everyday life for millions of Americans. Now, the legislation's momentum comes after the House Energy and Commerce Committee overwhelmingly passed the measure 48-1 back in May. Trump wrote at the time, "It's time that people can stop worrying about the clock, not to mention all the work and money that is spent on the ridiculous twice-yearly production. It will also be a very nice win for the Republican Party. Take it. We are going with the far more popular alternative, saving daylight, which gives you a longer, brighter day, and who can be against that? This is an easy one." Opponents, including several medical organizations, argue that permanent standard time, which provides more sunlight in the morning, would be the healthier option because it would be more closely aligned with the body's natural rhythms. Representative Mary Gay Scanlon, a Democrat from Pennsylvania, proposed amending the bill with language from her co-sponsored Sunshine for Our Kids Act, which would make standard time permanent nationwide. The amendment was quickly rejected. So there we are. I know people have watched this somewhat closely. Now, some conservative lawmakers have argued that GOP leadership should be focused on what they describe as more pressing legislative issues like the Save America Act. We do have a couple minor updates on that. Nothing really coming forward. I know after the passing of Lindsey Graham, President Trump said that we lost a huge champion for the Save America Act. Representative Keith Self from Texas said Republicans are majoring in the minors, fiddling with the clocks while the country burns. So your thoughts? A comment from a viewer. The clock change is simple. 1/2 hour, then leave it. I would agree with you. That has always been my kind of thought on it. Instead of having this argument over which one we keep, yeah, just meet in the middle. 1/2 hour. Perfect, right? Okay, yesterday, South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster tapped late Senator Lindsey Graham's sister, Darlene Graham Norton, as the interim senator to serve out the remainder of his term. As you are undoubtedly aware, he had just won his primary, so he was up for re-election in November. So it's a short window, but what a nice gesture. That means she will finish up the rest of his term. That will come to an end in January of next year. McMaster said in a statement, Lindsey took care of his little sister in years long departed. It's my honor to ask his little sister, Darlene Graham, to finish his work for him now. Darlene also had the support of President Trump, who had tweeted it out or X'd out or whatever he did, True Socialed it out earlier in the day yesterday, and also had the support of Majority Leader John Thune as a return to the Senate. John Thune had quite an emotional display about the passing of his friend, Lindsey Graham. Now, Darlene will be sworn in today, this afternoon. Graham's grieving sister said she felt confident taking up her brother's mantle, knowing she has the support of his staff and colleagues, saying, quote, I think this is what Lindsey would have wanted, and I plan to honor him in this way. To Lindsey, I miss you more than I can even put into words, but I'm going to do this. I got it. Darlene, who is 64, is a married mother of 2 daughters and also a granddaughter. The Central South Carolina native has never held public office, but she has dedicated her career to public service, according to the governor's office. She served as commissioner of the South Carolina Commission for the Blind, where she has worked to expand opportunities for South Carolinians who are blind or have low vision to achieve employment and independence. A state database of public employees confirms Darlene is the agency head of the commission and earns a salary of $138,000, a little bit less than $174,000 per year she'll make as a U.S. senator. Well, obviously, I believe that would be kind of retroactive. She'll only be paid what the time remaining will allot. I think it was a nice, your thoughts on that? I think it was a nice gesture. I think it was the right. I was actually a little surprised when I heard that Trump made that announcement that he would support her. Hadn't thought of that avenue. I think that is a good way of doing it. Now, some could argue that if you appointed someone that's running in November, or that could potentially run in November, then you have that powers, even in only a few months, the power of the incumbency. But I think this was the exact right move. Okay. Oh, we're moving quick. There's no way to segue through a lot of these. We will get into more in-depth conversations later on in the program. But right now, it's just hitting all the breaking news from yesterday, a busy news day. Bruce Blakeman, friend of Frankly Speaking, also a gubernatorial candidate running against Governor Hochul. He has raised $11 million in his underdog campaign for governor. That's enough money to run at least a competitive campaign against Governor Hochul. Blakeman said, or his chair, Howard Fensterman, said, Hochul may have the office, but we have the unstoppable force of New Yorkers fed up with a state that they can no longer afford. And we had that report for you on Friday's broadcast, where a survey was done where 48% of New Yorkers can't afford to live here without some type of assistance. Continuing, the statement said, "We know from day one that running an underdog campaign meant running against the full force of the governor's mansion, an office that went so far as to try to illegally block our campaign's funding." Yes. And we talked about that extensively on the program. They're so concerned, so scared of Blakeman that the commission, in a completely partisan, biased decision, tried to withhold that matching funds. And we can have the argument whether or not you like matching funds. I personally don't, but that is the rule of the game as set up by the Democrats. So when he went for it, they tried to block him from it. But continuing, yet Blakeman for New York has raised nearly $11 million from over 10,000 supporters and will unlock an additional $1.5 million in funding that Hochul unnecessarily tried to block from us. Sound is a little scratchy. I'm not sure. Scratchy like static? I'm not sure. There's nothing different than normal. Maybe just something in the background. Now, we don't have to go through the whole appeals. We remember all that. We discussed that at length. Now, the state Democrat Party has $14 million on hand in its account that could be tapped to help re-elect Governor Hochul. The state Republican Party has less than $1 million in hand. And Friends for Kathy Hochul, her campaign apparatus, has $20 million. So still, $11 million, great news coming from Blakeman campaign. Still very much an uphill battle, an underdog fight, but a little better off this morning as Bruce Blakeman raises $11 million in his bid for New York governor, making him more competitive. Okay, where do I want to go from here? So, yeah, I'm not sure. That's interesting. I don't know why the audio. Is anybody else having trouble with the audio being a little scratchy this morning? I'm not sure what that would be because there's nothing really different. I don't know. Okay. When we return, we're going to talk about Iran. A couple of quick announcements. On Thursday's broadcast, we're going to talk to Steuben County Senior Services Fund. Don't forget they have their Bubbly and Brunch fundraiser coming up. That is on July 26th. I do have a pair of tickets to give away. I'll let you know how we can do that later, how you can win tickets. Last year, we had a viewer attend, and they loved it. It's such a fun event this year. It's at CMA, Corning Museum of Glass. So we'll tell you more about that and get you an opportunity to perhaps win tickets. Yeah, people are saying it's scratchy. Yeah, scratchy as in, Yeah, Frank, your voice is scratchy. I don't know if it was my TV or what, and probably other viewers have already commented. Hope it clears up and have a good day. Interesting. I will reach out to our engineer. It is still listenable, right? I mean, you can still get it in. It's just scratchy in and out. That's a new one. I'm not sure. I'll try to put some feelers out there and see what we can find out. All right, stay with us. We're just getting warmed up. We'll be right back.
What better way to start or end every day than relaxing in your very own Hesselson's hot tub? Massage therapy, relaxation, stress reliever, pain management, soothing muscles, or just spending time with a loved one. Hot water therapy really does make every day better. Hesselson's has been a part of this great community for over 70 years, still being locally owned and operated. So make the drive to Hesselson's and start making your path to a better life today. And after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
I had to pack up all my things. I had to leave my home. And I never knew where I was going next. It felt like I never even had a say. But then you came along.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you. Learn how you can help at nationalcasagal.org.
Get 185 Chemung County Fair. 5 days of family fun. August 4th through August 8th at the Chemung County Fairgrounds in Horseheads. Experience thrilling rides, exciting games, and captivating livestock shows. Taste delicious fair food and explore local vendors. Rust and Fright Concert August 4th. Tractor Pull August 5th. Rodeo August 6th. Truck Pull August 7th. Demolition Derby August 8th. Join us for the 185th Chemung County Fair, where tradition meets excitement. Visit ChemungCountyFair.com for tickets and details.
Hi, I'm meteorologist Brandon Weathers. Hot, humid, and sunny for our Tuesday. Instead of the average 83, we're about 15 degrees above, pushing toward 98 with a feels-like temp that will be approaching 104 at best. So a lot of heat to be found. Temperatures not recovering a ton overnight as we see lows in the low to mid 70s, back in the 90s with some sun for our Wednesday. A gradual return to mid 80s.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Thank you to everybody sending in waves, but also sending in comments and telling us about the static. I'm going to reach out. I didn't have enough time. I was trying to test some things. But seeing that it's on the commercials as well, I feel like this is probably a bigger problem. We will find out, but I'm glad that at least it's somewhat listenable, but I don't believe it's through our normal process here. Mark writes in, says, good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Mark. Yes to daylight savings time, and yes to Lindsey Graham's sister. I agree. Thank you very much for that. I see some other comments coming in. Thank you. I'm going to reach out and find out about what's going on with that static. I apologize. So last night, the U.S. military unleashed another round of attacks on Iran. This is for the third consecutive night. We're hitting them very heavy tonight. As you know, the president told reporters, we have tremendous amounts of ammunition. We have numbers that we haven't had in years, and we're hitting them hard, and it will continue, and we'll see what happens. But we're knocking out all of their offensive capabilities, and we're controlling the straits. At 4:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, U.S. Central Command began launching the third consecutive night of strikes against Iran as the Commander-in-Chief's direction read a statement. These strikes will continue imposing a heavy cost on Iranian forces and degrade their ability to attack innocent civilians and commercial shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. All right. During the 5-hour mission, U.S. forces successfully struck military targets across Iran, including, well, just trust us. Trust me. I'm not going to read each one. To further degrade Iran's ability to attack commercial shipping, CENTCOM forces employed precision munitions against Iranian coastal defense systems, missile and drone sites, and maritime capabilities. President Trump also defended the U.S. strikes on Iran, saying Tehran's military capabilities have been badly weakened and warning that another major attack is coming tonight, saying, quote, we were in Vietnam for 19 years. We're here for 4 months, so I think we've done a lot. When asked whether this was the new normal. Yeah, that's one thing. I'm glad President Trump, same thing he did when he gave that speech to the nation. I'm glad he highlights the fact, you would think the way the media reports on this, that it would be, that this is the longest war we've ever had. If we don't do it, they would have a nuclear weapon. If they had a nuclear weapon, Israel would no longer be with us. The Middle East probably would no longer be with us. The president also said the U.S. should be reimbursed for protecting the Strait of Hormuz, saying, I want to be reimbursed because we're protecting a very rich portion of the world. This is what they've done for 47 years. The difference is nobody negotiated like I do. And it should have been done by Bush and Obama and Biden and people before them. Now, a top ex-Iranian commander boasted yesterday, quote, if the goal is to assassinate Trump, the Islamic Republic can easily do so in the White House. Whatever necessary, we are capable of doing that, claimed Hossein Kanini Moghadam, a former senior commander in Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. He also refused to rule out revenge against America for the war. We are not negotiating with the Americans for peace. We are negotiating to reduce tensions. We are not negotiating for peace with Trump and his criminal aides. In the negotiation, we are only seeking to restore our rights and clarify the accusations made against us by the United States. As for revenge and retaliation, they remain firmly on the table. Now, Trump's new plan is to have a toll in the Strait of Hormuz that could generate up to $200 billion annually. Wow. Trump's proposed 20% toll on commercial shipping through the Strait of Hormuz could generate nearly $200 billion annually in revenue, a windfall large enough to cover about half of the federal civilian payroll. Trump announced the concept yesterday after months of rejecting Iran's plan for post-war tolls and what could amount to a negotiating tactic. Brandon Daniels, CEO of supply chain AI company Exeger, told the Post that the annual volume of international commerce in the Strait was between $880 billion and 970 billion before the war. That would translate into Trump tolls of between $176 billion and $194 billion, an amount that would, if enacted, cover the compensation for about 1 million or more federal civilian workers, saying, quote, I don't think that there is a real mechanism for us to charge that toll at this moment, and how we would charge that toll is still an open question of both economic policy and international law. Senator Roger Marshall, Republican from Kansas, was on CNN's The Source yesterday, saying that Iran is decades away from having nuclear weapons and we can play whack-a-mole going forward. But here's another question that I have, and it's not for you, it's for the Gulf Coast countries. We have defanged Iran. Now it's their turn to go in and finish the job that they need to finish. They need to send their ground troops in, if that's what it takes. But it should not be American soldiers that are leading the way. I think that they have a responsibility here as well. We've done our job. Newt Gingrich compared Trump's strategy to Abraham Lincoln's Anaconda strategy, saying the U.S. is gradually tightening pressure on Tehran while trying to avoid a major ground war. This may strike you as a strange analogy, but when Abraham Lincoln became president and the South seceded, the senior general outlined for him what he called an Anaconda strategy, that they would gradually surround and crush the rebellion. Well, if you watch week after week, our allies are getting madder at Iran, not at us. The Iranians are gradually losing power and capability. We are coercing them. Gingrich said Trump is moving slower than some would like, but argued the president is taking a steady approach. We're going to respond week by week. We're going to grind them down. I fully expect at some point in the not-too-distant future that the Iranian regime will break, said Newt Gingrich. All right, we got to take another short break, trying to figure out this static situation. Stay with us. If it does clear up, I don't know how it naturally would, but if it does clear up, let me know. All right, we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
When it comes to fun, it's what we do. See Parmalee perform country hits like Just the Way, Cowgirl, and more on Thursday, July 16th at 8 p.m. Tickets at Ticketmaster.com and the Gift Shop. Tioga Downs Casino Resort. Fun is what we do.
I have been hugely blessed to have all this, and I want to share it. Safety first, goggles, mask, because the sawdust can do a number on you. They're welcome to try any of my tools. I just don't want them hurt. You gotta know what they're doing. Just a total blessing for me.
Yeah, hello. I'm really not sure if this is what you all do, but I really don't have anywhere else to turn.
Hi. I don't even know why I'm calling right now. I'm sorry. My thoughts are going a mile a minute.
My kids are out of state. My buddies from the Army are all gone now. I'm really alone.
I left the service last year. My mom just passed away a few months ago. I miss so much time with her. I keep getting calls about the bills, and I'm trying to get a job, but I feel so stuck.
Okay, ma'am. I'm glad you called.
Okay, sir. Let's stay on the line and walk through some things.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
When it's to fun, It's what we do. See Parmalee perform country hits like Just the Way, Cowgirl, and more on Thursday, July 16th at 8 p.m. Tickets at Ticketmaster.com and the gift shop. Tioga Downs Casino Resort.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. No, it does not come across in the commercial. See, it's coming across in the commercials here. I have this little TV here to monitor, and I notice the commercials are bad on my end. But when you set your headset down, it really gets loud. The scratchiness got loud as you set your headset down. Interesting. Maybe it's getting some interference with the headset. Interesting. Thank you. All right, a couple other comments from viewers. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning to you. Thank you for all you do for the community. Have a wonderful day. Oh, that's nice. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. That's going to give me an opportunity to promote the community in just a second. Jack writes in, I like daylight savings time. It's the same time number as the Philippines, except exactly opposite. It's our time, but everything right now there. Makes it much easier to talk to friends there. Oh, that's great, Jack. I appreciate that. Since that great viewer mentioned doing things for the community, don't forget there is a match for the Salvation Army. You scan that code there, the QR code. It's kind of a Christmas in July celebration. This is unrelated to the great viewer that matches funds at Christmas time. This is a different organization that is matching up to $1,000. So the digital donations that are raised between now and July 31st, up to $1,000 will be matched. So please, I don't know if it's $5, it's like you're giving 10. You've heard me say it a million times on telethon. I know it's different than the telethon, but it's still, they can use the money. Trust me, they're an amazing organization. Now, if you say, Frank, I'm not overly familiar with QR codes, that's okay. What I can do, just text me and I can send you the link, the direct link. All right, there we go. Thank you for giving me that opportunity to promote that. President Trump is slated to deliver a primetime speech on Thursday. President Trump will be making a speech to the nation on Thursday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Ooh, you know it's important when he says that. The Post did not reveal the topic of the speech, but the announcement follows a series of significant political events, including the passing of Senator Lindsey Graham, escalating tensions in Iran. So again, Thursday at 9 o'clock, the president will be addressing the nation. Yesterday, a U.S. judge, obviously, voided a settlement between Donald Trump and the Internal Revenue Service, giving the president and his allies sweeping protection from audits, ruling that his lawsuit over leaked tax returns had been filed for an improper purpose. Trump, his two oldest sons, and the Trump Organization sued the IRS for $10 billion over the disclosure of confidential records by a former agency contractor to news organizations. The case ended in May with a hugely contentious agreement granting Trump, his family, and affiliated businesses sweeping protection from existing tax examinations and claims. It also established a $1.8 billion taxpayer-funded program to compensate people who allegedly had been targeted by politically motivated government investigations, although that measure, decried as a slush fund for criminals, was later abandoned. District Judge Kathleen Williams said there had been a genuine legal dispute between Trump and the IRS because as president, he effectively controls the agency and Treasury Department. Quote, and because this fact was so obvious and so insurmountable, the court finds that this matter was brought for an improper purpose, to gain the imprimatur of judicial legitimacy for a settlement that had no viable basis in law or fact. She accused the government of abandoning its duty to defend the public interest, saying Justice Department officials had disregarded policies, and pursued objectives that exceeded and in some cases violated their legal authority. So that, we for a while there, we had a lot more updates on judges. Lately, it's been a little slow, so Kathleen Williams making sure that she gets her name out there. I don't know a lot about her. I don't know who. So it said, oh, okay. All right, so what president do you think nominated District Judge Kathleen Williams for the bench? It was Barack Obama. I didn't give you enough time to guess. Barack Obama. All right. Also, a criminal who hijacked a plane from Cuba to Florida back in 2003 and served 20 years in prison had been in ICE custody awaiting deportation till a Democrat-appointed judge dumped him back on the street last week. Cuban national Mikel Gora Morales, who assaulted crew members during his terrifying mid-air hijacking, was detained by ICE back in December, then ordered freed July 8th by Florida Judge John E. Steele, who said he'd been in custody too long. The Department of Homeland Security on Monday railed against what president do you think nominated Mr. Steele? Bill Clinton nominated judge, saying this activist judge forced ICE to release a criminal illegal alien who was convicted and sentenced to 22 years for hijacking a plane back into American communities. Oh, is this right? The static is gone? Interesting. I didn't do anything. Oh, that's great. Continuing, this is yet another example of the activist judge trying to thwart President Trump's mandate from the American people to remove criminal illegal aliens from our country. Under President Trump and Secretary Mullen, DHS will continue to fight for the detention and removal of criminal illegal aliens who have no right to be in our country. So 2 activist judges stories back to back. Static cleared up as suddenly as this started. Whatever you did, it cleared it up. I'll have to put engineer on my business card. I don't think I did anything. I plugged in my headphones a little different. Interesting. I don't know. We'll keep an eye on it. Could be anything. All right, continuing along here. Yeah, and I know there's no real way to segue through a lot of these stories, but I want to get to New York State issues. We have another example of mass exodus. This time, we're talking some substantial money being lost in New York State. We'll talk about that. A few things about Lindsey Graham. I've got some media updates I think you're going to find just kind of fascinating. So a lot of these things we're going to be jumping around this morning. But Pentagon Chief Pete Hegseth announced the creation of a joint task force with the Department of Justice to identify and prosecute officials who leak, quote, sensitive information to the media. And as I said, we're going to have some media updates here in just a little bit. But Hegseth said the Pentagon's Office of General Counsel may request and receive all information, support, and records across the department regarding news media leak investigations. Quote, to combat the dangers that leaks pose, effective immediately, I've delegated tasking authority to the War Department's Office of General Counsel, empowering OGC to request and receive all information, records, and support across the department concerning media leak investigations. Leaked information risks lives. These new tools and processes will greatly assist us in protecting our joint forces. The security of our nation cannot be a bargaining chip for those who seek monetary headlines. Access to confidential and secret information is a sacred trust, and those who betray that trust will be met with the full force of the law. The Secretary also thanked Acting U.S. Attorney General Todd Blanche for his support, adding that he was proud that our departments are working together closer than we ever have before. You know, the leaks were a major issue in President Trump's first term. They started to become an issue here. We've had some scary instances where media were actually given plans of attacks on Iran ahead of time. Luckily, in some instances, like the original attack on Iran, they kept it to themselves for national security issues. I don't think that continues. That is troubling, so I'm glad that Pete Hegseth is having that task force with the DOJ to prosecute leaks to journalists. Hopefully that quiets. It's a national security threat in so many instances. Now, you could talk about the leaks where it's, you know, a White House insider says that Trump is bad. And you go, well, what's an insider? Is that the guy, you know, painting one of the rooms, or is it an actual insider? Also, yeah, I got to take a break because I have so many texts coming in about this. I appreciate it. I'm glad the static is gone. I have no idea. I did plug my headphones in a little bit different. So hopefully that does it. Thank you for all the comments. Thank you for all your help out there. We're all engineers in this together, and I appreciate it. Let's take that short break. We'll be right back after this.
Watch Big Fox News on YouTube.
Everyone has a community, a neighborhood, school, place of worship, or other chosen groups. Communities can provide support when you need it, including helping your kids avoid underage drinking and other substance use. Learn more at talktheyhearyou.samhsa.gov.
William Attar isn't like other attorneys. He eats, breathes, and dreams about car crashes.
He's too fast. He's going too fast.
I knew it.
Way too fast for the condition.
You're fixing this?
This should be totaled.
Boss, that guy is here again.
Icy road. Head on. 2 million. No question.
And one more thing William Attar does. He wins. Hurt in a car? Call William Attar.
The tide isn't just a gentle ebb and flow. It's a mighty force of change. Just like the tide shapes our shorelines, we can shape our planet's future and protect the world's oceans from its biggest threats. Help us turn the tide. Join Oceania's wave of ocean advocates who are making a difference in the world.
Hi, I'm meteorologist Brandon Weathers. Hot, humid, and sunny for our Tuesday. Instead of the average 83, or about 15 degrees above, pushing toward 98 with a feels-like temp that will be approaching 104 at best. So a lot of heat to be found. Temperatures not recovering a ton overnight as we see lows in the low to mid 70s, back in the 90s with some sun for our Wednesday. A gradual return to mid 80s late week. Weekend rain expected.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. So you do, people do think it's my headphones that cause that. Okay. Let's thank you, the person who sent that letter. That the Ro Khanna story. I hope we have an opportunity to get to that. It's basically he tried to suggest Ro Khanna, who's in some hot water right now because of his full-throated endorsement at one time of Graham Plattner. But in his latest showboating stunt, it's even too much for other Democrat elected. We'll mention it real quickly. Not only a transparent ploy to get past his all-in bet on Graham Plattner, but a transparently pathetic bid to play victim of those darn Israelis. This coming from the New York Post editorial board. Just days after his scorched earth defense of the Maine Senate candidate failed to stop the implosion, Ro Khanna, Democrat from California, rushed off to the Middle East to change his storyline, get the attention off of him. He headed to the West Bank, intentionally directing his entourage into a restricted zone, then pretended he'd been taken hostage by Israeli, quote, settlers run amok. In reality, he was briefly stopped by local security. After the army checked out his story, he was free to proceed on his inane fact-finding mission. Khanna's subsequent whining that it's unprecedented and illegal for an American citizen to be stopped in a high security area in another country is not only absurd, it's the ultimate entitled, ugly American behavior. Yes, he wanted the attention on him. He wanted to play the victim. He thought this would play to the anti-Semitic, which is now not even marbling the Democrat Party, seems to be one of the platforms, one of their agenda, playing to that anti-Semitism. Any American, even an elected official, who makes an unscheduled and unannounced trip to a contained area in some other part of the world would reasonably expect to be stopped and questioned. Notice that none of Khanna's House colleagues have stepped up to defend him. Even other progressives are sick of his self-promoting phoniness. Khanna, perhaps the wealthiest Democrat in Congress, is even crying that he was stopped for being, quote, brown. Utter nonsense when many Palestinians are fair-skinned and many Israelis, Jewish as well as Arab, are dark-skinned. The most shameless self-promoter in Washington can bang on all he likes about Israel apartheid, but has nothing to do with the real thing, nor even American racial divides. This is the cheapest possible demagoguery, appealing only to the most ignorant in his domestic audience, but he was fundraising off of it soon after. More posturing, having staged his victimhood in front of the New York Times photographer, he proceeded to talk up his ambitions to seek the presidency, pretending to warn Israelis that he might soon be running the world. He's even a bigger joke than Kamala Harris. But Ro Khanna, is immune to shame or self-doubt. He's not even embarrassed by his naming of complete innocence as supposed Jeffrey Epstein Confederates, nor his foolish embrace of an obvious fraud like Graham Plattner. The real shame is that we have put up with his camera hogging. We have to put up with his camera hogging as we wait for his political career to be over. Yeah, it's so pathetic. Even his own Democrat colleagues who would normally be supportive of a narrative like this, they backed away from this. I have to mention, I'm going to jump ahead here, because I said I would give you a couple of media updates. I've got just a few things here. First of all, when we talk about kind of the dumbing down of the country and why some people are, a lot of people are supporting this socialism. According to a study by Neiman Lab, for the first time, social media overtakes television as America's top news source. Now, why do I mention that? Well, people are going to social media to get their news. This is why it's so troubling. Because remember, social media has had a history of censoring conservatives, and now we learned yesterday that two of the most popular news aggregating services systematically suppressed scores of articles about disgraced former Maine Senate candidate Graham Plattner for months during his ill-fated campaign. This is reminiscent of when the New York Post was censored by social media, and so many others on social media were censored because they were bringing up the Hunter Biden laptop right before the 2020 election. The verified now verified laptop. But remember, at that time they were trying to suggest it was Russian disinformation. So they were hiding it, burying it. This is very similar. According to Media Research Center, it revealed that both Apple News and Google News published exactly 0 stories between last November and May covering controversies, including Plattner's Nazi tattoo and his offensive Reddit posts. The study also found that the tech giants failed to promote at least 112 news stories published by conservative-leaning outlets that investigated Plattner's disturbing history during that November to May period. MRC President David Boesel went so far as to accuse the tech platforms of running a protection racket for Plattner by memory-holing unflattering coverage, as it slowly became obvious the left had made a mistake in holding him up as a blue-collar everyman. The MRC study said the coverage blackout began after a poll released in October called Plattner the Democrat with the best chance to defeat the incumbent, and didn't let up until the New York Times May 30th report about him sexting women outside his marriage. For months, while Plattner looked like the one Democrat who could beat Susan Collins, the two most powerful news apps in America buried scandal after scandal. Then the polls turned. Plattner became a liability, and suddenly the blackout ended. News judgment had nothing to do with it. So keep that in mind. As social media, as online content is being censored, people are using social media more than television news outlets for the first time. And we can go through all the bias in the media in general. And I think I may. Let me humor me, because I always like to talk about the media. CNBC did a piece, and this is hilarious to me. It was the 10 worst states to live in 2026. And I said, well, let's look at this. Where did they come to their conclusion? CNBC is placing increasing emphasis on quality of life. One of the 10 categories of competitiveness is our annual America's Top States for Business study. It's our annual ranking of every state's business climate. Under this year's methodology, the category's up. We don't need to know about that. Okay, what are the other factors? Crime rates, air quality, healthcare. We also consider the cost and availability of childcare, inclusivity of state laws, and reproductive rights. Yes, abortion. Some states offer quality of life, but these 10 states do not make the grade. And you're never going to guess what the 10 states are. They're all Republican red states where people are flocking to move. You had Alabama, Missouri, Utah, Georgia, Louisiana, Indiana, Texas, Tennessee. America's worst place to live in 2026. The place where how many family members and friends have you heard that are moving there currently? Tennessee. It is a boom there, much like Florida. It's where people are flocking to after leaving the mass exodus in places like New York. I guess my only shock here is that they couldn't put Florida in there. But every single one on CNBC, every one of their 10 worst states, worst places to live, happen to be Republican-led, happen to be red. Counting down from the 10 worst places to the first, as I mentioned them all. All 10 states are Republican-led and voted for President Donald Trump in 2024. CNBC, I mentioned their qualifications. The list is a subset of America's top states for business of CNBC's annual list. CNBC just dropped their 2026 10 worst states to live in, and it's pure comedy, said Jordan Wells. Shocking, all deep red conservative states. But somehow California and New York, with the highest taxes in the country, insane cost of living, and endless progressive policies, didn't crack the top 10. Christy Clark, right? This is correct. Please believe this. Tennessee is horrible. You definitely shouldn't move here. Being sarcastic, not wanting more people to come to her Tennessee. The corporate media outlet took direct shots at local conservative legislation across the board. Tennessee was dinged for the state's bathroom law, which requires transgender individuals to use facilities corresponding with their biological sex at birth, as well as a law barring localities from passing their own local anti-discrimination ordinances. That outlet also took aim at a joint resolution signed by Governor Bill Lee this past April, designating June as Nuclear Family Month. So that's something that dings you on the polls of the best places to live, while also noting it had low rankings for crime and drug deaths. Utah, ranked 6th worst, was hit for its $7.25 minimum wage, low availability of child care providers, and air quality. Georgia, the 5th worst in the survey, was explicitly called out for offering few protections for LGBTQ plus individuals, making one of America's least inclusive states. Democrat California Governor Gavin Newsom immediately seized on the study, going to Twitter to point out that every state was red. Quote, notice something in common, all led by Republicans, many suffering from California derangement syndrome. If you want to look at it that way, let's obviously, it's a completely biased survey, but also where are the people that are leaving California and New York going to these top 10 states? Lance Goodin, representative from Texas, said, if you hate not paying income tax, law and order, parental rights, smaller government, school choice, the Second Amendment, and criminal illegal aliens being arrested, here's another garbage list from the mainstream media. Robbie Starbuck, conservative activist, said, actually, I noticed something else. The list is a baloney list that has nothing to do with quality of life for sane people. It's all predicated on far-left baloney. Our states all gained population while yours lost a record amount. 10 worst states based on what? CNBC has inclusivity as one of its criteria. The numbers tell a different story. Just to show you the media bias, one last media bias story before we take a break. Sonny Hoiston from The View. Remember, they're trying to present themselves as a news broadcast. Sonny Hoiston, who we recently talked about, who said that even though this is before he dropped out, but saying that even though Graham Plantner is what she called a racist, homophobe, anti-Semite, she would still hold her nose and vote for him. That was until the last scandal broke, and then she distanced herself. Sonny Hoiston name-dropped her own name, trying to get her son out of getting in trouble with the police. Her son was nabbed trespassing on Metro North Railroad tracks in Westchester County. Gabrielle Hoiston, 24, was spotted jogging along MTA tracks in New Rochelle on June 16th, ignoring no trespassing signs and giving lip to cops when they questioned him. They were just talking to the kid because he was trespassing, but his mother made it an issue, a source said. She wanted to know why he was stopped and why did they talk to him. According to the sources, cops then got on the phone with a TV personality from The View, who allegedly asked if they knew who she was. Never a good look. Do you know who I am? She said, I'm Sonny Hoiston. I'm on The View. The sources said the path along the tracks typically raises suicide concerns for MTA cops, but there's no indication that Gabriel Hoiston was attempting to harm himself. Do you know who I am? I'm Sonny Hoiston. When jogging, he observed what appeared to be a gravel incline that would be used for hill training, Sonny Hoiston said. Although this was a gate at the entrance of the gravel incline, the gates were standing open. The only no trespassing sign was affixed to the left gate, and because the gates were open, it was not visible to my client as he entered the property. All right, enough on that. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Wow, we're moving quick this morning. Don't go anywhere.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
After having arthritis for 30 years, I did want to work and keep working until my retirement age. The feet problems I had just made it impossible. The team was excellent. They go through everything step by step, help you right along the way. And after surgery, here I go again. We're back out. Moving around again is just amazing. And I'm very much appreciative of the care I received. It was exceptional.
How we start a conversation matters. Text CONVO to 51550 for weekly conversation starters and connect more with parenting.org from Boys Town.
Hi, I'm meteorologist Brandon Weathers. Hot, humid, and sunny for our Tuesday. Instead of the average 83, we're about 15 degrees above, pushing toward 98 with a feels-like temp that will be approaching 104 at best. So a lot of heat to be found. Temperatures not recovering a ton overnight as we see lows in the low to mid 70s, back in the 90s with some sun for our Wednesday. A gradual return to mid 80s late.
Out here, control is everything. At Young's Tires, we install BF Goodrich truck tires that bite harder, pull stronger, and keep you moving. When gravel shifts, when the surface fights for control, you don't. Dirt, gravel, mud, doesn't matter. This isn't about just getting there. It's about owning every mile. Get equipped. Get moving. Get to Young's Tires today.
I had to pack up all my things. I had to leave my home. And I never knew where I was going next. It felt like I never even had a say. But then you came along.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you. Learn how you can help at nationalcasagal.org.
Looking for a meaningful day trip close to home? Visit the historic Elmira Prison Camp, one of the most significant Civil War sites in the North. Walk the grounds, stand where history happened, discover powerful stories of courage, sacrifice, and survival that shaped our nation. Whether you're a history enthusiast, a family looking to learn together, or simply exploring the Finger Lakes region, we offer an experience you won't forget. Plan your visit today at elmiracivilwar.org. Preserve, discover.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Trump says that the reflecting pool has been drained and will be put back into service soon after vandals had slashed the pool's lining. CNN observed that much of the water had been drained, revealed dried sediment, algae, and some debris on what was supposed to be a freshly renovated landmark, painted what Trump previously called American flag blue. Since Trump called for the pool's renovation in April, the more than $14 million project has been plagued by massive algae blooms, green-hued water, a chipping bottom, and allegations of vandalism. The president said, this coming from CNN, so read it with a grain of salt. Oh, I have a comment from a viewer too. Hold on. This is what Trump said. We drained the beautiful reflecting pool today in order to fix the scars and damage that was done by vandals 2 weeks ago. The slashes were 300 yards long, and the floor of the pool was cut and then pulled upward with great force by these thugs. Trump's latest claim that the gashes in the lining were 300 yards long, which would be 900 feet or the length of 3 football fields, is considerably longer than his past claim, which have increased in length several times. All right, enough on that. You get the idea. All right, comment from a viewer. The thing is, social media and mainstream media are owned and run by liberals. The difference is mainstream media just doesn't report conservative news and social media just lies about the story. To be informed, you have to split the difference and wait for the truth to come out years later. Pony Express was faster to deliver the truth. Thank you very much. Now, we have a couple of... We're going to talk about Lindsey Graham. We're going to talk about New York State as well. If you are just joining us, we mentioned it earlier, number one, that Bruce Blakeman, a gubernatorial candidate, running against Kathy Hochul, has raised $11 million, so that is a very good sign. Makes him at least competitive, and that doesn't mean that money's going to dry up. Hopefully more money comes in, but $11 million is, well, a little unsettling, because at one point it was unsettling. We didn't know how much he was going to make, and we know how much Governor Hochul has, $20 million at least, so at least $11 million is getting Bruce Blakeman somewhere. Also, yesterday was announced by Chemung County Executive Chris Moss that he is going to seek re-election in the general election. Now, how he's doing that is he lost the Republican primary, but he will be on the conservative line in November. So he still has that conservative line, so it'll be Mark Margeson on the Republican line and Executive Chris Moss on the conservative line come November. So your thoughts on that? We do have, sadly, the conspiracy theories that are going crazy about Lindsey Graham. We're not going to talk too much about it, but I wanted to mention a couple of things about Lindsey Graham in general. As we mentioned earlier, it's reported that his sister is going to be sworn in today to fill out the remainder of his term. So, again, I think that was a good decision by not only the president, who was the first person I heard to say it, but also the governor there. Lindsey Graham, like I said, coming up, New York issues. Oh, one last thing, because I mentioned the mainstream media. I don't like this idea, but President Trump agreed to a future interview with CNN anchor Jake Tapper, telling the left-wing host that, quote, we're trying to have CNN go on a normal path. During an impromptu phone interview Sunday following the shocking death of Senator Lindsey Graham, Tapper tried to question the president about the war in Iraq, but Trump declined to answer, saying, well, I know you don't want to talk about any other issues out of respect for Lindsey Graham, but we'd love to have you back sometime because I do have a lot of questions for you, sir, said Jake Tapper. Trump said, sure, we'll do that. We'll do that. As Tapper started to thank the president for the live phone call, Trump jumped in saying, we're trying to have CNN go on a normal path, and we'll do that. Of course, Tapper can't let that go. Well, I'm on a normal path right here, sir, and I appreciate your time. Thank you for calling in. Good, you are? Okay, thanks a lot, Trump said. I don't know if I like that. Jake Tapper, we can imagine how that interview is going to go. All right, that does it for hour number one. Thank you, everybody, for your help being engineers earlier on with a static issue. Make sure that you stay tuned because we've got a lot of New York updates, a lot of Democrat Party updates. The media doesn't want to report it this way, but the civil war within the Democrat Party, where you have the Democrat Socialists of America and what you would call maybe more typical Democrats, but I don't know anymore. I almost believe the socialist wing has taken over, that anti-Semitism has taken over. We're going to talk about that and what it means for the Democrat Party as it nears the midterms. We also, like I said, I just want to update you on New York State issues. So we'll be reading your comments. Keep those waves coming in. We're having a blast this morning. Stay with us. We'll be right back with hour number two after this.
At William R., they only handle motor vehicle accident cases.
I'm not going to take any lowball offers.
There's nothing William loves more than fighting for his clients and giving them the big money they deserve.
Okay, wow.
But everyone needs an outlet, a chance to get away from it all.
Heads bowed, eyes closed, and now go to your happy place.
Rideshare truck, motorcycle, car, only call William Matar.
Live a carefree, engaging lifestyle at Apple Ridge Senior Living, where exceptional is the standard. It's time to redefine your future. Pursue your passions and make meaningful connections. Enjoy an inclusive and customizable senior living experience. Everything you could want, more than you expect. Visit appleridgeseniorliving.com and schedule your tour today.
And we welcome you to hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Thank you so much for joining us. A couple comments. Yes, Executive Moss is going to run in the general election. There is not a Democrat. A couple people asked the question, so that does not split kind of the Republican vote. This opens up the vote to Democrat independents, because remember, in the primary, only Republicans could vote in the Republican primary. So that's just the concept there. Democrat independents and Republicans, of course, can vote in the general election. But there is no Democrat running for that position, so it does not break up that vote to kind of ensure a win for Democrats. But I could understand why you would have been concerned. Okay. From our friends at the Hornell Sun, attorney Michael DiGiacomo announced today that James Gerald Eckert Jr., 39 years old, of Rochester, New York, was arrested and charged by criminal complaint with threats to kill, kidnap, or inflict bodily harm upon a member of the immediate family of the president, which carries a maximum penalty of 5 years in prison. According to the criminal complaint, on June 18th of this year, a member of the U.S. Secret Service on duty at the residence of President Donald Trump's son, Donald Trump Jr., was alerted that several threats were made against Trump Jr. The threats made in the group chat feed of Trump Jr.'s podcast, triggered with Donald Trump Jr., included, quote, and this is what he's alleged to have said, "I'm going to kill you, blank. I'm going to kill this blank on the screen." The threats were posted by an account with the username James Gerald Eckert Jr., so he's not trying to hide not trying to hide his name. While viewing the podcast on the online video platform Rumble, Eckert Jr. was also streaming himself, repeating both verbally as well as by post in the live chat similar threats against against Trump Jr., as well as the CEO of Rumble for most of the duration of an approximately 8-minute video. The threats included, "You're blanking dead, it's over, guys, and I'm going to YouTube and be calm. I'm still going to blanking kill Trump Jr. We're going to get world peace. Die, guy. Try to get out of this surviving. Blank you forever." On June 7, 2026, prior to the threats made against Donald Trump Jr., Eckert Jr. posted a message on his Facebook account stating, "Mayor Malik Evans, I'm coming for your family. Seriously, you will lose them to me personally. Stand by. This will not go away until you are dead or blank is behind bars. Deal with this. You are going to die." He also made a threatening post against New York State Senator Samara Brooke. Wow. The fact that the defendant has been charged with a crime is merely an accusation, and the defendant is presumed innocent until and unless proven guilty. There you go. That's right out of Rochester. Also, and people, it's like they want all the attention of the world on their social media, but then when it happens, they're not prepared for it. Like, again, this happens to be nurses and teachers. This happens a lot. A California registered nurse is facing backlash after social media posts circulating online appeared to express a wish that President Trump and late Senator Lindsey Graham would die, prompting questions about whether his employer is reviewing the matter. Robert Acuna Bagshaw, who identifies himself on his LinkedIn page as a registered nurse at Long Beach Memorial Medical Center, Memorial Children's Hospital, since January of 2016, appears to show a collage of 3 public figures, Mitch McConnell, Donald Trump, and Graham. McConnell is on the left with a skull power plug emoji beneath his photo and flashing text that says "pull the plug." Trump is in the center with a countdown beneath his photo, and Graham is on the right with a gray tombstone graphic reading RIP over his image. At the bottom of the story It says, if all 3 of these blankers die this week, I might become religious again. Wow. Okay. In a later Instagram post yesterday that included screenshots of various accounts, Akuna Bagshaw wrote, "What's funny is that MAGA morons are messaging me on all my socials, threatening my life, calling my work, trying to get me fired, looking up my address, and insinuating attacks on the property owner of the listed address because I've reposted memes, all the while not realizing all of their internet activity, which they can't delete, is being tracked. When one of the morons actually does something, because that's what MAGA does, they'll all be suspects." That's what MAGA does? Interesting. If you're new just yesterday and didn't know you, expect a call. I'm fortunate enough to have made a life with friends in positions that specialize in these situations. It's sad that MAGA are like this and personally attack people to shut them up when nothing has been done to them. I guess they missed that part in the Bible about false prophets. What's funny is they attack me for being a nurse and assume I'm as racist, as bigoted as they are. We'll see how that all plays out, because remember the cocky teacher that was local. When I say local, driving distance, I can't remember exactly where he said, hey, I got tenure. You can't touch me. And then, of course, he was out of a job very soon after. Also, I guess since we're just bringing up the divide in this country, comedian, and I use that term very loosely, comedian Margaret Cho is facing backlash after a video circulating on social media showed her mocking the death of Lindsey Graham. Bye, Lindsey Graham. From the closet to the coffin. Real seamless. Real seamless. I find it really strange that the tolerant, peace-loving left who just got done celebrating Pride Month in June has been using this unsubstantiated claim, this false rumor that Lindsey Graham is gay almost as a slur. I find that really strange to use gay as a slur from the left. I don't understand it. She continued her rant, appearing to suggest that Trump might be next. Mitch McConnell. So it's Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham. It does happen in threes. Hope. Anyway, let's talk about Lindsey Graham here. FBI entered Senator Lindsey Graham's Capitol Hill home again after the sudden death of the Republican hawk. Jarrett Wilson from Fort Lauderdale, who's been staying in a nearby Airbnb on vacation, told the Post, Saturday night, we were coming back from dinner about 9:30 and the street was shut down. Paramedics, law enforcement, as we were walking up, they stopped us. We told them where we were staying at. They let us go, and we were walking up there. We saw the gurney being rolled out with somebody on. There have been heavily law enforcement presence today with the FBI. I want to say the ATF was out there as well, going in the house and interviewing some neighbors. Now, I'm sure this is just, he's a sitting senator and a very powerful senator. I'm sure this makes sense to verify that everything was above board. But that does not stop the online conspiracy theories. Chilling question, FBI is asking Lindsey Graham's neighbor as 20 agents descend on his home as Senator's final movements spark fear, according to the Daily Mail. Why? Because he recently visited Kiev and he's been critical of Iran. One neighbor told the Daily Mail that no less than 6 agents questioned him about whether he had seen anything out of the ordinary in the hours leading up to Graham's death at 71. But the suddenness of his death has raised suspicions, coming just hours after he toured a drone factory in Ukraine and met with the country's president, Zelensky. So I guess law enforcement has not found any evidence to suspect foul play, and the FBI said it is investigating out of an abundance of caution. But of course, you've got some of the conspiracy theorists online. I'm not gonna go through it. Just preparing you for that if you see it. Now, Graham asked one of his staffers to call 911 after reporting the chest pains, according to CNN. GOP Senator Tommy Tuberville said one of his staffers was with Lindsey Graham's scheduler Saturday evening when the late senator called the scheduler to complain of chest pains and asked her to call for emergency services. Lindsey called basically said, listen, I'm having chest pains. I need to do something. Tuberville said Graham's scheduler asked if he had called 911, and Graham responded, no, that's the reason I called you. By the time she got there, 911 had knocked the door down, and they were working on him. The senator's account adds new details to what happened before Graham died, appearing to confirm some aspects of what is known about an emergency phone call about the incident. So that's just an update. Senator Thune, as I mentioned earlier in the program, got choked up over the death of Lindsey Graham as the Senate gavelled in for the first time. The Senate honored Graham by draping his desk in the upper chamber with a black shroud and placing a bowl of white flowers on it, keeping with its tradition of honoring fallen senators. Upon gaveling back into session, Rear Admiral Barry Black, chaplain of the United States Senate, said a prayer for Graham, asking God to give comfort, strength, and peace to his family, friends, colleagues, and all who mourn his passing. It's John Thune saying, "It's difficult to believe that Lindsey Graham is no longer here with us, that we won't run into him at a meeting today or share a joke with him at this afternoon's vote. The halls of the Senate already feel empty without him, and I know I'm not alone in that feeling." The Senate leader hailed Graham's humor and advice. He praised Graham for being undaunted by the politics if he believed he was right on the principle. As he fought back tears, he said, "I'm comforted by the knowledge that in the end, he had just changed his address, and that one day, Mr. President, we will laugh together again." All right, so there's your updates on Lindsey Graham. We have, as I said, quite a few updates about New York. If you are just tuning in, a couple announcements. One, Executive Chris Moss is running in the general election on the conservative line. That was announced yesterday. Also, we learned that Bruce Blakeman, gubernatorial candidate, has raised around $11 million for his campaign. Also, when it comes to Frankly Speaking, on Thursday we're going to talk to Steuben County Senior Services Fund about their upcoming Bubbly and Brunch fundraiser, and we'll have an opportunity for you to win tickets. And I know last year we had a viewer go, and they said it was a blast, so you're going to want to tune in. Also, on Friday, it's Assemblyman Phil Palmisano is going to be our guest. It's Fridays with Phil on Friday, so get your questions in ahead of time. And since we're doing a lot of housekeeping here, we are doing a lot of housekeeping. I don't want you to forget, because I know I've talked with you, or many of you have always been soccer fans, or you're becoming soccer fans because of the World Cup. You know, the huge crowds they've had, the huge ratings. If you are a fan of FIFA World Cup, we're having a watch party. It's coming up this Sunday, 2:45 p.m. at Corning Centerway Square. I saw them testing, I know I mentioned this, but I saw them testing out the television screen, the big, huge screen that's going to be right in Centerway Square underneath the stage. On the stage, I should say. It's beautiful. It's nicer than anything you'll be able to watch in your home, unless you're really, really rich. And then if you're really rich, we'll get you the info for the Salvation Army to help us out. But this is going to be a really special event brought to you by the Corning Gaffer District, Corning Incorporated, Guthrie, and of course, right here on Big Fox. So please come on out. There's going to be food trucks. Bring a chair. You're going to have a blast, especially if you're a soccer fan, and you're going to be out there in the beautiful weather in Centerway Square on Market Street. All right, stay with us. Well, since I mentioned that, right? I did mention it. It's not too late. They give a little, change a lot. The Salvation Army, kind of Christmas in July, if you will. There is a group that will match up to $1,000 in donations. This is not the same person matching that we're so grateful for during the telethon. Completely different. But we can always, trust me, as the chairman of the board, of the advisory board for the Salvation Army, we can always use your help. So up to $1,000 will be matched. So if we raise $1,000 by July 31st, it'll be like we raised $2,000. So if you have $5, $10, just give them a little thank you for all that they do for our community. All right, now we'll take that break. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this.
Nearly 500 kilos of cocaine has been seized in a bust.
Thousands lined the pier at Seneca Harbor. Race weekend brought thousands to Watkins Glen International.
Hundreds and Horseheads joined other cities around the country on Saturday for the No Kings protest.
Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
Live a carefree, engaging lifestyle at Apple Ridge Senior Living, where exceptional is the standard. It's time to redefine your future. Pursue your passions and make meaningful connections. Enjoy an inclusive and customizable senior living experience. Everything you could want, more than you expect. Visit appleridgeseniorliving.com and schedule your tour today.
Join the Services Fund for Bubbly and Brunch Sunday, July 26th at the Corning Museum of Glass at 11 a.m. Enjoy a wonderful brunch experience while supporting a cause that helps local seniors remain safe and independent in their own homes. Join our online or silent auction to support the fund that makes aging in place possible for so many in our community. Gather with friends, raise a glass, and make a meaningful difference. Bubbly and Brunch July 26th at 11 a.m. For tickets and details, visit SteubenSeniorServicesFund.org.
Hi, I'm meteorologist Brandon Weathers. Hot, humid, and sunny for our Tuesday. Instead of the average 83, we're about 15 degrees above, pushing toward 98 with a feels-like temp that will be approaching 104 at best. So a lot of heat to be found. Temperatures not recovering a ton overnight as we see lows in the low to mid 70s, back in the 90s with some sun for our Wednesday. A gradual return to mid 80s.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Ball Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Comments from some viewers. Putting a guard watch on 24 hours at the reflecting pool would probably be much cheaper than draining and repairing it. That's a fair point. It's kind of surprising when you find out there isn't like that kind of security. But I know the one video they had of one of the vandals, it was done in kind of a crowd, secretively trying. So maybe that's where one of the problems is. A comment from a different viewer. Yeah, there's been people online, and I think it's just despicable, but they're calling Lindsey Graham, who just passed away, trying to insinuate he's gay in a racial, or in a slur, a homophobic slur, coming from the tolerant left. And this viewer writes in, inclusive Democrat. Shows just how two-faced Democrats are. Thank you. The hypocrisy of it. I think it's sick, to be honest with you. I don't know why they think that that's so fun to use gay as a slur at a time when every ad on TV, it seemed like, or everywhere you went, it was Pride Month. But I guess different rules for the Democrats. Ken writes in, did you see that a California judge got some funding to the Biden family? By ruling against a former Overstock CEO, he found that Patrick Byron didn't have enough evidence to accuse Hunter Biden of looking for a bribe of $800 million from Iran to get his father to release billions of dollars of frozen assets. Anyone with a brain would know that this was Hunter's MO, and the idea that an accusation like this could hurt Hunter's reputation is laughable. I did not hear that. Thank you, Ken. Thanks for passing that along. All right, let's talk about New York for a moment. There's a study that was done yesterday. New York State's share of U.S. millionaires dramatically declined in recent years, causing a nearly $11 billion loss in much-needed tax revenue in just 1 year. According to a bombshell new analysis, the study released yesterday by the Citizen Budget Commission comes amid fears that socialist mayor Zohran Mamdani and his push to tax the rich will drive even more wealthy taxpayers and their businesses out of New York City. Well, how can this be the case? Because remember when the media lectured us and said, oh, they're not going to leave. They actually like paying more tax. They'll do anything to protect these socialist policies. But it's not a good look for the Democrat Socialists of America, that's for sure. Even before Mamdani took office, the Empire State's share of the nation's millionaires dipped from 12.7% to 8.7% between 2010 and 2022. The largest decline of any state, according to CBC's competitive New York State Value Proposition Tracker dashboard. Quote, New York's declining share of high-income taxpayers has meaningful consequences. Had New York maintained its share of nation's millionaires over the past decade, personal income tax collection would have been substantially high, roughly $10.7 billion more in tax year 2022. Many experts and business leaders warn Mamdani's stick-it-to-the-rich policy dreams and their growing success among Albany lawmakers could supercharge the drip-drip of wealthy people. And, well, Kathy Hochul's been playing right along with this. You've got to put credit where credit's due, too, because it's not just Mamdani. Kathy Hochul and former Governor Cuomo appease the left. They never wanted a far-left challenger. So you got to recall, and I know you know, that Governor Hochul was one of the first to endorse Mamdani and his policies. Quote, in New York, the top 1% of earners pay about 45% of all state income taxes in any given year. So New York's revenue is very reliant on high earners to stay in New York, and that has been a challenge in recent years, said Jared Walcott, an economist and senior fellow at the Tax Foundation. Gracie Mansion can't do it on its own. It takes Albany. That second house tax will have some impact, but there's a feeling that New York isn't done raising taxes. And with other places being more competitive, it won't be surprising if high-earning taxpayers choose to relocate. Should come as no surprise. And Bruce Blakeman, who we announced earlier, Bruce Blakeman raising $11 million for his campaign to unseat Governor Hochul. He said the latest data proves Kathy Hochul has officially turned New York into a giant commercial for U-Haul. Look at who is actually packing the boxes. It's not just the ultra-wealthy, it's married middle-class couples leading New York's mass exodus. Governor Hochul's taxes have made New York so brutal that renting a moving van and driving 1,000 miles away sounds like a relaxing family vacation. At the exact same time, our highest earners are jumping ship at record rates, taking the state's tax base with them and leaving the rest of us to hold the bag. Hochul can't keep milking the middle class until the state is completely empty. To stop the bleeding and actually rescue the middle class, I have a plan to stop the exodus cold. We will completely eliminate state income taxes on the first $50,000 of income for single filers and the first $100,000 for joint filers when I'm governor. Let's end the mass exodus, slash the tax burden, and make New York affordable enough that people can actually afford to stay. That is Nassau County Executive and candidate for New York State Governor and friend of Frankly Speaking, Bruce Blakeman. The title of his press release was "The New State Bird of New York is the moving truck. Middle-class New Yorkers are flying the coop." But Judge Glock, wow, look at all these great comments. Keep them coming in. Judge Glock, he's a director of research and a senior fellow at Manhattan Institute. I'm going to tell you what he had to say about that. And this is going to tie in with the Democrat Party, some updates on them, some of the things that are occurring now that Democrat Socialists of America seem to be taking over that party. Now, whether you think it's like Melissa Del Rosa called it, a parasite, whether you think it's just the direction the party's headed, but it seems to be taking over. We're going to talk about it when we return. So stay with us. See some comments coming in, see some waves coming in. We'll get to them when we return. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Looking for a meaningful day trip close to home? Visit the historic Elmira Prison Camp, one of the most significant Civil War sites in the North. Walk the grounds, stand where history happened, discover powerful stories of courage, sacrifice, and survival that shaped our nation. Whether you're a history enthusiast, a family looking to learn together, or simply exploring the Finger Lakes region, we offer an experience you won't forget. Plan your visit today at elmiracivilwar.org. Preserve, discover, remember.
We invited passionate soccer fans to push Nissan vehicles to the limit, just like they do with their teams. Further proof that the Nissan lineup is tested and trusted by the toughest. Hurry in to bring home a winning offer at the Nissan Summer Sales Event.
Get 0% APR on select model trims for well-qualified buyers, or get up to $5,750 total savings on select Frontier trims.
Get ready 185th Chemung County Fair. 5 days of family fun. August 4th through August 8th at the Chemung County Fairgrounds in Horseheads. Experience thrilling rides, exciting games, and captivating livestock shows. Taste delicious fair food and explore local vendors. Rust and Fright Concert August 4th. Tractor Pull August 5th. Rodeo August 6th. Truck Pull August 7th. Demolition Derby August 8th. Join us for the 185th Chemung County Fair, where tradition meets excitement. Visit ChemungCountyFair.com for tickets and details.
Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. listen.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Let's go to some viewer comments. Mark writes in, it's no wonder millionaires are leaving New York. Tax the rich is a very stupid idea. And how many people do the rich employ? Probably quite a lot. Yeah, it's trickled down. And then you figure, all right, so that money costs us jobs, costs us opportunities, but also we're left, to use Bruce Blakeman's term, holding the bag. Because it's not as if New York's saying, oh, let's cut all these things then. If the money's not coming in, we'll cut this, we'll cut that, we'll cut. Nope. We that stay here are left paying the taxes. Comment from a different viewer. I'm not rich, but if Bruce Blakeman doesn't win the election, I will put New York in my rear view mirror. Thank you very much. Rick writes in and says, good morning. Good morning, Rick. Donald has a mess now, doesn't he? He put the blockades back in place on Iranian ports. Our forces have to serve as chaperones for ship traffic through the strait, and Trump is going to collect a fee from shippers for protection through the strait, 20% fee. Isn't that illegal? Charging for safe passage on international waterway? And here's the worst part. Iran is going to shoot at the ships anyway. Billions and billions of dollars to make sure there is no nuclear weapon in Iran and force a regime change. He gets neither one. Causes fuel prices, oil prices, fertilizer prices, and prices for food and essentials to rise. Ends up having to police the strait. Good job, Trump. No plan and no approval gets you right where you are. Right down loser lane. I hope you're all proud of your fearless leader, says Rick. All right, so back to this New York State issue. Americans are some of the most mobile people on earth, says Judge Glock. They move homes about 3 times more than Europeans. As a recent report shows, the mobility is a problem for New York's rising socialist movement. A new Citizens Budget Committee report found that New York's share of millionaires, as I mentioned, those earning more than $1 million a year, declined more than any other state since 2010. The state went from having 12.7% of all millionaires in the nation to 8.7%. Worse yet, in more recent years, the state's higher earners have been leaving much faster than its lower earners. The flight of the millionaires leaves the rising Democrat Socialist of America movement, and Mayor Mamdani in particular, in a bind. On one hand, DSA campaigns have centered around attacking the millionaires and billionaires who made claim are squeezing working citizens. On the other, the DSA needs those same people to pay exorbitant taxes to fund their social programs. Mamdani in his campaign wanted to raise taxes on millionaires by 2%. The New York City DSA chapter suggests that states should raise taxes on those making over $300,000 a year and on capital gains and inheritances as well. Unfortunately, New York has little room to further squeeze the well-off. It already ranks second in the nation in terms of percent of income taken as taxes. New York City's tax rates on the wealthy are already the highest in the nation. The DSA and its supporters claim that ever higher taxes won't force the well-off to move, but the evidence clearly contradicts that, and that's been the argument even the media was trying to make. Oh, it's not going to affect them. Millionaires aren't going to leave, and of course they do. Economists Joshua Rawl and Ryan Shafu found that a California income tax hike drove almost 1% of top taxable incomes out of the state in a single year. The loss of taxpayers and other changes among the well-off meant that the state lost most of the cash it would otherwise have raised from the tax. Another study by Enrico Moretti and Daniel Wilson looked at how state taxes affected the movement of top scientists, a group that's not thought to be particularly mercenary or focused on cash. They found a 1% increase in after-tax income in the state brought nearly 2% more star scientists into the state, while a tax increase drove them away. New York's highest rates explain why the state lost more than $7 billion of annual taxpayer income just to Fairfield County in Connecticut over a 5-year span, and more than $7 billion just to Palm Beach County in Florida. Some on the left celebrate the flight of the well-off from their states and cities. Socialist Mayor Katie Wilson of Seattle argued that claims that millionaires would leave her state after a tax hike were overblown, and as for the ones that leave, like buy, she said. Like buy. There's a political logic to why some might celebrate the flight of the well-off. By driving more of their political enemies away, socialists can ensure their political dominance. Economists call it the Curley effect, based on former Boston Mayor James Michael Curley's efforts to drive the well-off from the city and cement his political base. Yet cities cannot survive forever if they keep shrinking the tax base that funds them. A century ago, Soviet leader Joseph Stalin promised to build socialism in one country. Many of New York's socialists are promising to build socialism in one state or even one city. The fact that the people they hope will fund that socialism can always move away means their plans are doomed to fail. All right. Now, Maine Democrats, this is interesting as we talk about this push towards socialism. Remember, Joy Reid, the former MSNBC host, but now I think she's a podcaster or something. She said that she gives you permission. That's kind of the ego of Joy Reid. She gives you permission if you live in Maine and they decide to pick a moderate for Graham Plattner, to replace Graham Plattner, then you have her permission not to vote. Okay? All right. Now we learn that Maine Democrats are telling Chuck Schumer, stay out of our Senate race. Oh, Chuck Schumer's been getting a lot of grief. Now, we learned a couple weeks ago, sources are saying that if AOC runs for president, he will support her because he doesn't want that challenge. Obviously, I think, it goes without saying, but I could be wrong, that AOC would defeat Chuck Schumer in a primary. Chuck Schumer is not very well liked currently. He's being seen as not fighting Trump enough. Chuck Schumer of New York is accustomed to getting his way in Democrat primaries for Senate, but even as Mr. Schumer, the Democrat leader in the Senate for nearly a decade, has successfully recruited a number of nominees in marquee races this year, he is getting a clear message from his party's voters, candidates, and local leaders. Stay away when it comes to Maine. A pivotal battleground in the fight for control of the Senate, Democrats are trying to flip the seat. You know, Susan Collins, Graham Plattner, of course, disgraced former candidate. Now that Mr. Plattner has ended his campaign after a rape allegation that he denies, voters and state party leaders are warning Mr. Schumer and other Democrat leaders in Washington not to intervene in the process the state party is using to replace Mr. Plattner. All the leading candidates running to replace Mr. Plattner have signaled interest in replacing Mr. Schumer as leader after the midterms. Paige Ziegler, the chair of the Waldo County Democrats in Maine's Mid-Coast region, said, "Do you want Maine to decide for you if you vote in New York? Do I want Washington to decide for me? No." Then cussing no. Spokesman for Schumer said Leader Schumer has been clear that he will play no role in selecting Maine's new Democratic nominee. He has full faith in Maine Democrats to choose their nominee. Really? You have full faith when the last person they picked was an accused rapist with a Nazi tattoo? Anyway, once they do, Democrats will unite to defeat Susan Collins and take back the Senate. Candidates vying to replace Mr. Plattner have sought to separate themselves from Schumer, with several saying he should not stay on as leader after the midterms. They have been united in their calls for Schumer not to play a role in the race to replace Plattner on the ballot. This is a process for Maine and Mainers. This is going to be interesting with who they have time. He put in his letter withdrawing from the race. That's Graham Plattner. Now I think, what is it, till the 24th or 27th, they have to pick their candidate. Now people are saying it better be a socialist. I think Graham Plattner is saying it. See, Graham Plattner originally wanted to stay in so he could hand-pick who his replacement was. I don't think that's the best idea. It didn't happen. But like the one Democrat insider said, is that really who you want to endorse you? Who hand-picked you was a guy credibly accused of rape? So it's going to be interesting. Are they going to go with the far-left socialist like Graham Plattner? Are they going to go for someone that's a little more, quote-unquote, moderate? That's what's going to be interesting. Now, this also ties in with this Bernie Sanders and this kind of, there's a little civil war going on, a big civil war in the Democrat Party. We're going to talk about this when we return, but Bernie Sanders does have some wins under his belt when it comes to the primaries, but he also has major losses, and it's these unvetted, kind of wet behind the ears candidates that he's picking, like Graham Plattner. Now, that was a huge mistake. I mean, but they were looking at him as potentially being a presidential candidate. Even though he started out right out of the gate with a Nazi tattoo. Oh, yeah, and disgusting things on Reddit. But James Carville, I know we've quoted him a lot lately. He's criticizing Bernie Sanders. We also have, by Joe Grutters, a little look into the Civil War in the Democrat Party. But do I have time for this? Well, Liz Peek, tying in with what we were talking about with New York millionaires leaving, she says Democrats' affordability scam, because remember, that's what they're running on, collapses in states they actually run. The next time a Democrat campaigns on affordability, remember who oversees the most expensive communities in the country. Facts matter, and so do politics. All right, we got to take a break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox. We'll be right back.
You don't have time to go to the gym? The health club is not an option? Come to Hesselson today and see why swim spas and fitness systems can fit into anyone's yard and budget. 12-foot, 14-foot, 15-foot, 18-foot dual temperature hot tub and swim spas are all on display in Hesselson's indoor and outdoor showroom. Try before you buy. 0% interest-free financing options are available on every Hesselson swim spa. Swim and exercise year-round and start making every day better. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
I had to pack up all my things. I had to leave my home. And I never knew where I was going next. It felt like I never even had a say. But then you came along.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you. Learn how you can help at nationalcasagal.org.
Serveu Credit Union is proud to be celebrating 70 years of serving members in our communities. And what better way to celebrate than to pass along some savings to you? Now through September 30th, take 0.70% APR off our current auto loan rates. And we're gifting a $70 gift card to all auto loans over $10,000 to help buy your first tank of gas. Apply in person, online, or over the phone and start enjoying the benefits of teaming up with Serveu Credit Union. Thank you for giving us the chance to serve you since 1956.
Hi, I'm meteorologist Brandon Weathers. Hot, humid, and sunny for our Tuesday. Instead of the average 83, we're about 15 degrees above, pushing toward 98 with a feels-like temp that will be approaching 104 at best. So a lot of heat to be found. Temperatures not recovering a ton overnight as we see lows in the low to mid 70s, back in the 90s with some sun for our Wednesday. A gradual return to mid 80s.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street Coring. Let's go to some viewer comments, and we have a lot of them. Incidentally, I had mentioned yesterday that PA's budget is only $50 billion, but New York's is over $250 billion. One-party rule, greedy tax and spend, wasteful Democrats, yes, but I missed your response if you read it. So why is it that PA requires so much less to run the state? Well, New York just spends like crazy. I mean, you look at how much we're even giving the Hollywood tax credits. We look at the socialist agenda. I mean, there is no justifying it if that's what you're asking me to do. You're right. It's one-party rule in Albany, as Assemblyman Phil Palmisano, who's going to be joining us on Friday, as he always says, they treat the money like it's going outside, like that it's not even your money, that it's just spend. That it's not taxpayers' money. It's just kind of a kitty. So there is no justification for it. I mean, I think you could argue that Pennsylvania $50 billion is too much, but when you talk about over $250 billion for New York State's budget, there is no way to justify it. Comment from a different viewer. I'd like to ask viewer Rick what his opinion is about the SAVE Act. Is he for or against it? And if he is against it, his one main reason why. Just curious. All right, thank you very much. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning to you. I have a solution for Rick. It's called the nuclear option. Donald J. Trump uses nuclear weapons against Iran. They get what they want, a nuclear weapon, and the world benefits because the threat from Iran ends immediately with no Iran to deal with. Thank you very much. Comment from a different viewer. May as well change the name of New York to either New California or just bye-bye. Thank you. Comment from a different viewer. I think you get the point there. Why does questioning a liberal trigger nastiness and rude name-calling? You would think the party that claims they're way more intelligent would produce logical arguments and evidence to support their positions. Most actually try to push party lies and block you if you show evidence that proves that they are wrong. Rather than seek truth, they lie and then cry. Yeah, there is a lot of nastiness, name-calling. Look at the disgusting comments that have been made about Lindsey Graham. And again, that's going back to your point. The ones that take up the mantle of being the most tolerant are the least tolerant. They are saying just disgusting things about Lindsey Graham. But I'm with you. I don't know why it always resorts to name calling, but it's almost cliche to bring it up, but it's so true. It is, and if that viewer's talking specifically about social media, I know it's even worse on social media than it is in person or on programs like this. Ken writes in, so we are worried about the cost of the conflict with Iran. I wonder how much it would have been worth if Trump hadn't worked to eliminate Iran's nuclear program and they eventually detonated a nuclear weapon in America. Yeah, what would the cost be at that point? We all know at this point the legacy media, the Dems, the sheeple, and the people with TDS would be blaming Trump for not eliminating the threat on his watch. You're exactly right. God forbid. But you're exactly right. Now, we were talking about the Democrat Party. James Carville condemned the rising wave of Democrat socialists on Friday, saying the most catastrophic political event of this century, I think, was the election of 2016. How did Trump win? I'll tell you how. Because blanking Bernie Sanders is the reason that Donald Trump is president. You hear me? Listen to me. I'm telling you the truth. So he runs the whole time against Hillary on the dreaded massive income growth, the dreaded reality that we're dealing with in foreign policy, the massive knowledge of knowing what the heck goes on in the world. But no, we got to blow the whole blanking thing up again. He argued that Sanders prevented Hillary Clinton's electoral victory by telling working people and people all over Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, places like that somehow or another it was corporatist America. The Democrats are a corporatist party. They're co-opted. That there's no difference between the establishment Democrats and the establishment Republicans. Are you kidding me? Then we come to massive criminality. We come to trillions of dollars in added debts. We have a war to run, but it's the Democrats' fault. It's the corporate Democrats, he said, mocking the rhetoric of the far left anti-establishment Democrats. It's all because the Democrats listen to Al Gore or some baloney, we'll say, like that. These people are so blanking stupid, again, meaning the far left. I don't know what to say about it. So now we have this idea that these insurgent Democrats, and what is their solution? Is their solution to beat Republicans, to run against Republicans? No. Their solution is to beat Democrats, like they're part of the problem. No, you are part of the problem because you're a blanking idiot, and you just believe that nonsense that drifts around the left wing. I don't know, whatever sphere, blogosphere, atmosphere, wherever sphere they got. I can't go back and correct everything these blanking idiots say, but what I can do is tell you, don't fall for the allure of false prophets. And all those people, go beat a Republican, then come back and I will respect you. Until you do that, I have nothing but contempt for you. And somehow or another among Democrats, something became more important than winning elections. And that became, oh, I want to feel superior to people. I want to say things that make me sound like I am part of the cool kids. You're taking the country into the ditch. That's what you're doing. Every evil moment that has enjoyed success has also had useful idiots. That is collaborators. That's right. That's what you are. Useful idiots. Collaborators who are trying to convince people that it's a systematic problem caused by both parties, when in fact it's 97-3 by one party. And in this industry, or in this century, it wouldn't be for the Democrat left wing. We might not have even had a Republican president. We sure wouldn't have had one in 2000, and we sure wouldn't have had one in 2016. I'm a proud liberal. I'm not a leftist, he said. Blame the left wing of the Democrat Party for the catastrophe that we're facing right now, because as much as any group, it's their fault. Thank you. That's a little more information than we gave you yesterday. Now, Joe Grutter said the Democrat Party is at war with itself and in Maine, but the fight has spilled out into the open. And this starts with Graham Plattner. For months, Republicans and others warned that Plattner was unfit for the job. The Democrats did not care. As soon as party leaders saw polling that suggested he could beat Susan Collins, they were all in. His baggage didn't matter. His poll numbers, that's all that mattered. They didn't care about the Nazi tattoo. They didn't care about, there was no longer believe all women, because remember when his ex-girlfriend, who happened to be Republican, made some claims, they said, she's a Republican. But then the numbers turned and Plattner's lead collapsed in a dead heat. That's when fresh allegations of Plattner's monstrous behavior toward women appeared to confirm what Republicans have been saying for months. And with hours, the man Democrats had celebrated as their rising star became radioactive. Yeah, again, they were talking about the potential of him being a presidential candidate. Within days, the nominee Maine Democrats had chosen was gone, run out of his own campaign by the very same people who had gladly leaped on his bandwagon before its wheels came off. But erasing Plattner was only half the job. Now comes the real pickle, deciding who replaces him. And the Democrat establishment has no intention of letting the voters anywhere near that choice. We've talked about this in the past. They don't believe, or they don't trust their own voters. Maine's next Democrat nominee for U.S. Senate will be picked in a back room in just 2 weeks, crowded by a few hundred party insiders at a convention the public never voted for. The candidates fighting for the seat currently aren't even required to debate each other. Maine voters who poured their time, money, and passion into the race will be handed a nominee and told to clap. If that sounds familiar, of course it does. It sounds like Biden, Harris. When the Democrat machine doesn't like the results, the machine overrides it. That's not a party of the people, and the progressives know it. Yeah, and this goes back to Bernie Sanders. If we want to go that far, back to 2016, if you were a Bernie Sanders supporter and the Democrat Party had already had the fix in for Hillary Clinton, I would have thought you would have left the party right then. And I guess you could maybe argue they did and went to Democrat Socialists of America. But for whatever reason, Democrats prove time and time again they don't trust their voters. The progressives, they knocked on doors, they made the calls, and they won fair and square. But their reward is watching Democrat leadership scheme to install someone more to the liking of the same insiders they just beat. Both sides are growing increasingly furious as establishment Democrats publicly slam Bernie Sanders' clown car of unvetted, untested, severely character-flawed socialist candidates, while progressives openly plot to take down the liberal elite. The Civil War is tearing the Democrat Party to shreds, and it doesn't stop in Maine. In New York, a wave of Democrat socialists swept 3 House primaries, wiping out establishment rivals and one longtime incumbent. Colorado happened. From coast to coast, the radical base is in open revolt. And a frightened establishment is doing whatever it takes to hold the line, even if that means silencing the very voters it claims to represent. The irony is that Democrats' infighting only boosts Republican chances of winning critical battleground races this year. Even as their establishment is begging progressives to show up and vote in the fall, they're putting their finger on the scale to remove a leftist darling. Meanwhile, progressives are nominating socialists and communists under the Democrat Party banner, forcing vulnerable incumbents in tough races to answer for their insane policies. Now, this is, as I mentioned, this is Joe Grutters. He's the chairman of the Republican National Committee. He said, I couldn't be happier. Republicans know exactly who we are. We trust our voters and let them decide our nominees. By our own rules, the RNC doesn't get involved in primaries. We put up candidates who love this country instead of apologizing for it. And while the Democrats spend the next 4 months clawing at one another in the dark, we'll be out in the daylight, registering voters ahead of the midterm elections, getting them to the polls, and making our case to the American people. Let Democrats have the Civil War. Republicans are fighting every day to win the midterms and defy history in November. All right, we got to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
More cars, lower prices. Simmons Rockwell. Whether you're in the market for new, used, or certified pre-owned, Simmons Rockwell locations across the Twin Tiers have more of what you're looking for with our best price right on the windshield. Make car buying simple when you drive your deal at a Simmons Rockwell location near you, where you'll always find more cars at lower prices.
We are the keepers of the wild, America's original and most invested conservationists. For more than 80 years, we've been committed to conserving wildlife and the natural landscapes that define our nation. From rugged alpine ridgelines to peaceful tall grass prairies, we've supported the conservation of more than 36 million acres of American wildlands. Our funding has led to cleaner water, fresher air, and improved wildlife habitat. From abundant fish and waterfowl populations to robust deer and elk herds, nothing is more important than maintaining wild spaces for adventurers to explore and wildlife to thrive. We are America's hunters and target shooters, stewards of the American outdoors.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio, just talking here at the office. Let's ask. You're going to be watching Big Fox today. You're going to be watching FIFA. Who do you like today? France taking on Spain. Your thoughts. We'll end the program on your predictions. Okay, let's go to some viewer comments. Mark says, I believe this push for socialism in the Democrat Party will push for another revolution because normal U.S. citizens don't want it. I think it's the Democrat Party's own problem. I don't see, and I think that's why you're going to have some losses that shouldn't necessarily be losses to the Democrats because they went to the radicalization. And I think that's what James Carville was saying as well. Comment from a different viewer. Something as simple as gas prices that are published by Gas Buddy will trigger liberals into making, sexual slur comments. You're right. For the party that pushes 56 genders in men and women's sports, they use strange ways to try to disparage logic and proof. Yeah, the name calling, we saw it with Lindsey Graham. It's despicable. Coming from a different viewer. Morning, Frank. Hey, good morning. We're going to see a lot of deep state traitors crying Friday morning after Trump's address to America Thursday night. Hold on, they're being exposed for what they are. Yes, there is a national address from the president on Thursday. It'll be interesting what exactly he's talked about. Whether there's so much politically going on. Look at the news stories we had this morning. John Podhoretz had a piece at the Free Press that ties in with this talk of the far left, saying why anti-Semitism is a bigger problem on the left. I think that's not even a question. I think the headline's a little misleading to suggest it's even how you can even how they're even comparable, the left and the right. If you told me a decade ago that anti-Semites would be increasingly dominant within the Democrat Party, I would have said you were nuts. And yet here we are, said John Podhoretz. Yeah, there's no question. I mean, it's really become a litmus test for many of the candidates. That's talking about, there's a lot of talk about starting a third party. Tucker Carlson understands that the GOP is not his to take over. The key metric, he hates Israel, and they love it. The GOP does love Israel. All right, on New York issues, well, when we return, get your last second comments in. Got a couple of quick New York State issues. Again, your thoughts. Chemung County Executive Chris Moss is going forward and running in the general election. I think many people are speculating whether or not he would. He'll be on the conservative line, where Mark Margison, who won the Republican primary back in June, will be on the Republican line. Your thoughts on that? And we heard the announcement of Bruce Blakeman raising up to $11 million as of right now for his gubernatorial campaign. Some of the bigger stories locally and statewide this morning. Keep those last second comments coming in. We'll be right back after this.
Live a carefree, engaging lifestyle at Apple Ridge Senior Living, where exceptional is the standard. It's time to redefine your future. Pursue your passions and make meaningful connections. Enjoy an inclusive and customizable senior living experience. Everything you could want, more than you expect. Visit appleridgeseniorliving.com and schedule your tour today.
Hi, I'm meteorologist Brandon Weathers. Hot, humid, and sunny for our Tuesday. Instead of the average 83, or about 15 degrees above, pushing toward 98 with a feels-like temp that will be approaching 104 at best. So a lot of heat to be found Temperatures not recovering a ton overnight as we see lows in the low to mid 70s, back in the 90s with some sun for our Wednesday, a gradual return to mid 80s late week.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Mark writes in, glad your audio got fixed. Have a great day. It's going to be a hot one. Stay cool. You too, Mark. It is going to be a very hot one. Okay, the Trump administration, deployed a federal strike team to New York as part of a crackdown on fraudsters who took nearly $1 billion in unemployment benefits during the COVID-19 pandemic. It added up to $2 million per day is being bilked by fraudsters instead of going towards unemployment insurance. $2 million a day. New York is stealing from the American people every single day, draining their hard-earned tax dollars through rampant unemployment insurance, fraud, and improper payments, said Inspector General Anthony D'Esposito. In partnership with Acting Secretary Keith Soderling, we are taking a tough-on-crime approach to dismantle the fraud, hunt down every stolen dollar, and prosecute those responsible. Backed by the full strength of President Trump and Vice President Vance's fraud task force and our coordinating OIG and department efforts, our federal strike team will deliver the swift justice the hard-working Americans deserve. So to that viewer making the comment about the Pennsylvania budget as compared to the New York budget, think of that. The Labor Department, New York unemployment fraud hits nearly $2 million per day. Now, voters are poised to decide a state constitutional referendum in 2027 about that redistricting here in New York. Poor turnout in New York City could doom that effort, they're saying already. There might be more voters in the upstate city of Utica than in the sprawling borough of Manhattan. Democrats have started the process of placing a question on the ballot that would remove state constitutional restrictions on gerrymandering, letting them join the national redistricting war and giving them the ability to gain up to 4 seats. November of next year is the earliest possible date for the amendment and the only option that would allow for new maps before the 2028 election. They say they found themselves in a deep hole. Now, Governor Hochul's running mate, and we learned that Bruce Blakeman raised around $11 million to face her. Well, Hochul's running mate was dinged by election officials for allegedly misusing campaign funds on travel to the 2024 Democratic National Convention. Former City Council Speaker Adriana Adams, who is now running for Lieutenant Governor, was hit with a $3,585 penalty last week by the City Campaign Finance Board. CFB officials found Adams violated campaign finance laws by reimbursing herself for travel to the convention, which took place in Chicago, Illinois from August 19th to the 22nd. Playing fast and loose. All right. Oh, comment from a viewer. For America's 250th, I'm taking a Revolutionary War tour this week, going to Lexington and Concord, the birthplace of America. Sadly, I will miss Frankly Speaking, but we'll try to share my experience. Yes, please do. Definitely send in some pictures. We'd love to see some pictures. I don't know how many, if we have any place on the map. But yes, enjoy your trip. Safe travels. Thanks everybody who joined us this morning. We had a lot of fun. I do appreciate it as always. And join us every weekday morning starting at 6 a.m. for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV Big Fox. We will see you tomorrow morning bright and early. I look forward to it already. Have a great day, everyone.
We invited passionate soccer fans to push Nissan vehicles to the limit, just like they do with their teams. Further proof that the Nissan lineup is tested and trusted by the toughest. Hurry in to bring home a winning offer at the Nissan Summer Sales Event.
Get 0% APR on select model trims for well-qualified buyers, or get up to $5,750 total savings on select Frontier trims.
Let me ask you, does it matter if the law firm you hire focuses on motor vehicle accidents? Has the experience to take on big insurance? Will go to court to win? Has won over $1 billion for their clients? If that matters to you, come to William Mattar. We are the largest motor vehicle accident firm in the state. Call William Mattar for the recovery you deserve. Hurt in a car, it matters who you hire.
Hi, this is the owner of Hesselson's in Amara Heights. At Hesselson's, we care about your well-being and overall health, whether it's relieving stress, muscle recovery, increasing circulation, or just revitalizing the body. Hesselson's now has 2 complete line of infrared and traditional rock saunas in our new and expanded showroom. Come in today and see why owning a sauna is the start of your new healthy lifestyle. Hesselson's is still locally and family-owned and operated in Amara Heights. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.